Hello everyone, my name is Neeraj, and in this screencast we are going to discuss jQuery events. Here I am looking at jsfiddle.net. If you are not familiar with jsfiddle.net, then it is a web-based tool which allows you to test your JavaScript code very quickly. I am using jQuery 1.6, and now let's look at the code. Here I have HTML markup which is producing this market capitalization table. As you can see here, I have table, a tr, td, and the first td has a link and then two more columns. When I run the code, I get this market capitalization table, and when I click on a link, then I get to the link. This is how web works. Now let's try to attach event handlers to certain elements. But before we go ahead and attach event handlers, we need to know how the events work. So when I clicked on the Google link, then browser created a click event, and this click event propagates towards the body tag of the HTML page. Let's talk about how event propagates in greater detail. You can see here the outline of the HTML markup that I had. In this case, when I click on a link, a click event is created, and that click event automatically starts propagating upwards towards the body tag. So you can see here the event is moving from the A element to TD, then to TR, then to table, and then to the body. This is called event propagation, and it is also called event bubbling. You will hear me say these two terms interchangeably. Both of them basically mean the same thing, that event is moving from the clicked point to the body. Now let's try to bind event handlers to TD elements. So here I have the JavaScript code. What it's doing is that I'm selecting all the TD elements, and then to those elements I'm binding a click event with this function, and the function is an alert message that click event has reached TD. So when this JavaScript code gets executed, then this event handler gets bound to each of the TD elements. And when I click on a link now, a click event is created, and that click event starts bubbling. In the process of bubbling, when it reaches TD element, and since we have bound an event handler for click, this function gets executed and we get this alert message: click event has reached TD. I hit OK, and then I go to the Google page. So that's how the binding of an event handler to an element works. When we bind an event handler to an element, then an event handler is created for that element. The browser makes note of the fact that an event handler has been bound to that element, and when the click event gets to that element, then that event handler gets fired. Now let's try to bind more than one event handler to an element. Here I am binding click event to all the TD elements, and then I'm binding another click event to all the TD elements. The first event handler is producing this alert message, has reached TD first time, and the second event handler is producing this alert message, reached TD second time. Let's try to execute it. I click on Google. I got the message that click event has reached the first time, and then I got the message has reached TD second time. So here I demonstrated that it is possible to bind more than one event handler to an element. Now let's take the previous example and extend it further. Here I have two event handlers bound to TD elements, and then I'm binding one event handler to div and another event handler to table. So before I click, let's try to see what should happen. When I click on Google, then a click event would be created. That click event would start bubbling. When it hits TD, then we should get two alert, and then when the click event reaches div, we should see another alert message, and then we should see one more alert message from table. Clicking on Google, first message from TD, second message from TD, third message from table, and fourth message from div. So here we have seen a very good example of how the event is bubbling all the way up to the chain towards the body tag. So far in all the previous examples, we have seen the click event. A browser supports many different types of events. Click is one of them, and here I'm using mouse enter. So what I'm saying here is that anytime mouse enters in TD area, then fire this alert message. So let's try it. I'm going to take my mouse over Google and I get this alert message. Besides mouse enter, browser supports various different types of events. For example, key press. When you press any key in your keyboard, that's a key press event. Key up, key down, when something gains focus, when you resize the browser. All these events can be tracked, and we can make use of JavaScript functions. Here I have one event handler for TD and one event handler for div. We have seen this sort of example previously. So if I click on Apple now, I will see an alert message from TD and then another message from div. So this is good. Now let's say that for some reason you do not want the event to bubble any further. So in this case, you want the first alert message from TD, but you do not want the message from div. That can be accomplished by something called e.stop propagation. First, let's see what is stop propagation. As the name suggests, a stop propagation method stops the further propagation of the event, which means that after that element, the event will not bubble any further. And what is E? E is that click event that we have been talking about. Anytime an event handler is bound, the browser provides the event as an argument to the function. So far, we did not have a need for the event, so we were leaving it empty. But now that I want to stop the propagation, I will put E here, and then I can call e.stop propagation. So if I click on a link here, I will get click event from TD, and then I go to the Apple page. Notice that I did not get any alert message for the div, and that is because the TD element stopped the further bubbling of the event. In this case, I have bound two event handlers to TD. The first one has the alert message TD first time. The second one has TD alert message TD second time. And then I have the event handler for div. However, both the event handlers for TD, they are invoking e.stop propagation. So if I click on link here, then I get the message from first event handler, then I get the message from second event handler, and then I go to the destination page. So notice that e.stop propagation stopped the further propagation of the event. However, both the event handlers bound to the TD element got invoked. So what I'm trying to show here is that e.stop propagation does not stop other event handlers on the same element from executing. It only stops the further propagation, but all the event handlers on that element will get an opportunity to work with the event. So what do you do if you want to stop the second event handler on TD from acting on the event? You want to stop right here. That's it. For that, we can make use of something called e.stop immediate propagation. As the name suggests, e.stop immediate propagation stops the propagation of the event immediately. It means that even the other event handlers attached to the same element do not get to act on that event. So let's try this code. Clicking on Google, I get click event has reached TD first time, and then that's it. I did not get the second alert message from TD. That is because I used e.stop immediate propagation, and e.stop immediate propagation did not let other event handlers to act on the event. So far in all our examples, when I click on a link, I finally get to the destination page. When I click on Google, I get to Google page, and when I click on Apple, I get to the Apple page. What if I don't want to get to the Google page? I want to stop going to that page. For that, we can invoke something called e.prevent default. It's very rightly named e.prevent default Because the default behavior of clicking on a link is to go to the destination page. By calling e.prevent default, I'm telling the browser that stop the default behavior. So let's try this code. I clicked on Apple, I got the alert message, and then that's it. Notice that the second event handler was not fired, and that is because of e.stop immediate propagation. The event did not even make it to the div because e.stop immediate propagation not only stops the event propagation immediately, it also stops the event bubbling any further. And because of that, div did not get to act on the event. And lastly, e.prevent default stopped the default behavior of the event, which was to go to the destination page. You might have seen a lot of cases where people use return false. It is a much more common usage of a JavaScript code. What return false is doing is that it is equivalent to calling e.stop propagation and e.prevent default. So let's try this code. I click on Apple. I got my first alert message. Then I got my second alert message, and that's it. I did not go to the destination page thanks to e.prevent default, and e.stop propagation stopped the further propagation of the event. Notice that return false is equivalent to e.stop propagation, not stop immediate propagation. So far we have been talking about the event bubbling, and it's all good to know. Now let's try to see what could be a practical use of this technology. Let's say that you have a page which has a table with, say, 50,000 records. I have a table here with 5 records, and when I click on a link, I want to display the text of that link. One way to achieve that would be to bind a click event to all the links. Here I'm selecting all the links, I'm binding the click event, and then I'm saying alert $this, and in this case $this is that link element dot text to get the text value, and then return false so that I do not go to the destination page. Let's try this code. I click on Google, I see Google. When I click on Apple, I get Apple. In this case, I have a table with 5 records, so this code will work very fast. However, if you have a table with 50,000 records, then this code will take a while to run. And that is because it is creating an event handler for each of those 50,000 links. And that is not good from performance point of view because it slows down your page. As we discussed previously, when we click on any of the links, a click event is created and that click event bubbles to the top. So what we can do is that we should not intercept the event at the link level and let it go all the way up to the top, and we can intercept at the table level, and then we can display the text. Here is the code for that. I'm selecting the table element I'm binding the click event, I'm getting the event, and then I'm asking e.target. E.target gets you the target element, the element on which it was actually clicked. And then I get the text of that. So let's try this code. Click on Google, I get Google. Click on Apple, I get Apple. So the advantage with this code is that this code created just one event handler for your all 50,000 records. And that is because there is one table. We are not intercepting the event at link level. We are letting the event bubble all the way to the table, and then we are intercepting this event. So this code will be much faster than the previous code, because previous code was creating 50,000 event handlers, one for each link. So this is an example where event propagation makes your page run much faster. If you look at the graphical representation of the code that I wrote, then it would be this. When we click on a link, then we are not intercepting the event at that point of time. We have registered an event handler at the table level, and when the click event reaches table, then we act on it. That's the end of this screencast. If you have any feedback, send it to me. Thank you.